welcome to this podcast, Linny Chats. I'm your host, Linny, and I chat with my friends about today's topics and issues and what it means to live as a person in today's societies. Today's episode is episode 1, and we're going to be discussing third culture kids, and I have a special guest with me today, Poe. Hello, Poe. Hi. Hi, thanks for being with me here today.
Thank you for having me.
No worries. So would you like to just introduce yourself a little?
Yeah. So I am a master's student in London at the moment, and I guess my cultural background is Indian, so my parents are Indian, but I was born and raised in Dubai and then came over to England for university.
Great. And this is quite a recent thing, I think, third culture kids has come up. What with the world becoming more and more international, people's parents coming from all over the world, that kind of thing. Do you identify with that term, being a third culture kid? Or I don't know.
I guess in some aspects, yes, because I guess I've always been a bit all over the place in terms of like where I belong, and it's not like I can like correctly identify myself into one category.
Yeah.
Per se.
So when you say that, what categories are you sort of referring to? Like if you
like Westerners or no, that's not right. I don't know. Like it's like what do you define a third world or a third culture kid as?
Third world kid. You're not a third world kid. A third culture kid.
Yes.
So for me, that means a child who has grown up maybe abroad, a child who doesn't share the same heritage as their parents, or the same growing up as their parents have, even though they come from their parents, so they share that heritage. And maybe they don't fit in with where they're raised either.
Mm-hmm. By that definition, then yes, I do feel that I fit into the category of a third country. Oh my god, I can't say it.
A third culture kid.
Third culture kid.
Yeah.
So I have to cull this.
So when I get this question a lot, being an Asian in England, a lot of people say, "Where are you from?"
Yeah, that's quite funny because that came up all the time at university. You know, when you first meet someone, it's like, "Oh, so where are you from?" And my default is to be like, "Oh, I'm from India, but I grew up in Dubai."
Yeah.
Because I guess for me, I don't truly know where. I guess I would say that I'm from, because obviously I have an Indian passport, but I've never ever lived in India, and I was solely raised in Dubai. But growing up in Dubai and being born there, it doesn't entitle you to anything, you know, whereas if you live somewhere else and you're born in a country, you get residency.
Yeah.
But you can't in Dubai.
Yeah.
So I guess it would have to be India. But I don't associate that as home.
Yeah. So we were talking about this earlier, but just to restate, you have visited India.
I have. I've got a lot of my mum and dad's side of the family there, like my aunties and uncles, and I would visit like every 2 years or so, back to like my hometown. But I see it as more of like a holiday place where I just go for a few weeks of the year rather than what I would call home.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say you have a good understanding of the culture? Because just for whoever's listening, we are very, very good friends. We've known each other since we were babies, and whenever I've come round to yours, you know, I've been what I think, you know, with your parents cooking and everything, your mum's cooking, Indian cooking, and all your aunts and cousins, like a lot of them, being over a lot, and I don't know, just that kind of family vibe and that culture. That's what not what I think of when I think of India, but I feel like I have experienced some of Indian culture. Would you say that that's correct, or?
Yeah, I think there's quite a strong family like vibe. I don't know, that's not the right word, but you know, family is very important, and that exactly, it is a very collectivist culture, and that is what my family is like. You know, like everyone helps each other, and you know, for family gatherings everyone makes an effort to be there, and I guess that is still ingrained in me, I'd like to say, because I am quite close with like my aunties and uncles despite me being all the way over here. And cooking and stuff, you know, I do enjoy cooking Indian food, and I like to feed people and share that with people, and that's something that I've definitely learnt from my mum.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah. But then there's also some aspects that I just don't feel I associate with whatsoever. What? Like Indian festivals or something, you know. Or, this is going to sound quite funny, but whenever an Indian song comes on in the club occasionally, people start to point at me and be like, oh yeah, like, do the dance move, do the dance moves. I know.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, like, I just feel so awkward because, you know, like, if I truly felt really Indian, maybe I would break out into some Indian dance or whatever, but, you know, I feel so awkward, and I just stand there like a lemon.
Oh, that's so mean.
I mean, I don't think they mean it in a mean way, you know, but it's just like, oh, Indian song, point at the Indian.
Yeah.
So.
And how have you found being an Indian in the UK? Because obviously India was a British colony at one time, and there's a big Indian community in the UK. But I think that's like a whole other story, like UK Indian citizenship, like culture is a whole other culture than I think what you've been raised in.
I don't think I fit into their culture here. Like people at university were part of like the Indian society, and that was literally like the last thing that I would ever want to join, just because it's almost like I don't want to associate with it because I've suppressed that side of me for quite a long time. It's like when I was younger, I've never wanted to be Indian. I've always wanted to fit, because I went to a British school, I've always felt like I wanted to be part of that, like their culture.
Which I find just, I don't know, I just find it funny that you've done that, because for me, just everyone is from where they're from, like no one can choose to be what they're born into, and it just
it's like I was never white enough to be like British, but I've never been like Indian or brown enough, whatever, to fit in with that side either. So I've always felt like in a weird limbo stage. Like I feel like I've always maybe gotten on better with British people because I've grown up in an environment in a British school, and then going to university here, my accent probably doesn't you know.
I don't know why, but you've always just had such a perfect British accent,
and it's posh as well.
I know, like you, like just for the record, like Poe's parents are very, very Indian sounding when they speak English, but you just haven't got that at all, and I know you don't speak Indian with them either. And as you say,
I think that's
repressing.
because I feel embarrassed because with my English accent, like, my family do take the piss about it, and I know they don't mean it
when you speak Indian.
And I know they don't mean it in a mean way, but like, I just then feel embarrassed, and then I don't want to talk in an Indian language, because it's like, oh, what are people thinking of me? And I just always feel like I'm the foreigner.
Is there anywhere or anyone that you feel you can be totally yourself with and not have to worry about, this Indian side of me, this British side of me?
No, there's no one that I feel like I feel completely myself with, apart from this one person that a family friend of ours that walked into my life like a year ago, and I think because she was so fascinated by the Indian culture, I kind of joke that she's more Indian than me sometimes. I think that she's helped me to kind of like appreciate that side of me more. Whereas before I was very much like embarrassed by it, you know. It sounds horrible to say, but I think I was embarrassed of being Indian.
In a non-Indian society.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then and then you're embarrassed of being not Indian in your Indian circle.
So I'm just floating.
Yeah, I think that is third cultures.
Yeah. You don't really associate with what you are.
You don't strongly identify as either.
No. Correct.
Yeah. Wow.
It's getting deep.
I know. But do you think that's sort of held you back at all, or is it...
In some ways I do, because I feel like I don't really have anywhere that I can call home, but then in some ways I feel like it's made me a lot more culturally aware of, you know, like how people act towards cultures, or like maybe it's given me an upper hand in the sense that, I don't know.
Yeah, you're very sensitive towards that, so you can be quite accommodating to others.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I think it's given me an understanding of how to respond in the appropriate manner to different cultures, because I've had like both sides of it.
Yeah.
Whether that will be advantageous in life, I don't know. But
I mean, I think it will be. I think it makes you quite wise.
Yeah.
And it does make you so cultured, because there are still people who haven't left their country, people who haven't travelled beyond their village or city or whatever. So I think that's a big upper hand that third culture kids have, and anyone who's lived in different places. It's that balance between, you know, a balance between knowing one place really, really well for your whole life and fitting in to that one place, you know, knowing everyone there and what everyone's up to, or knowing different countries, different cultures, and making lots of different friends because of that. But then subsequently having no place to call home.
Yeah.
And it's, I think I don't know, people have got it to a different degree.
Yeah. It's just always hard, because it's like, I don't know who can relate to this, you know, like no one really talks about it.
Yeah. Did you feel similar to any of the other Indians at school that we went to? Because, I mean, it was, as you say, a British school. It was a British curriculum, but it was an international school, as I remember it.
Yeah.
There were, like, as many non-white kids as white kids, if not more.
Yeah. So, a point that I think explains that is the fact that I'm Catholic and a lot of them are Hindu.
Right.
Or like Punjabi or whatever. So they've got that kind of culture, whereas to have a Catholic Indian in those schools is not very common. Like a lot of them are like, no offense to them, but like rich Indian businessmen.
I see.
Who are, you know, Hindu or, you know, like from North India, and like they kind of all know each other. Whereas obviously I have
their own community.
Yeah. So I never really felt that I fit in with them, and like they would always go off and like go to Indian festivals together, like Holi, but I always I felt a bit awkward, and they could speak Hindi and I couldn't, so I never.
So even within
being
an Indian at the same school as these kids, you were
still felt like I didn't quite fit in.
Yeah.
And it's almost like I didn't want to as well, because they were referred to as in school as like the Indian group, or like the Indian crowd. And I guess I didn't want to be associated with that. I didn't want to be defined by the fact that I was Indian, therefore I had to fit in with that crew.
Yeah. I see. And so, what about... So how do you feel... Okay, so for everyone listening, Mine and Poe's families are very, very close. And we've sort of lived together, grown up together, until age 12 when my family moved to the UK and Poe's family stayed in Dubai. How do you feel that you fit in when you're around my family, which you are a lot these days because you study in the UK?
I feel like, like I'm part of the furniture. Like, I just...
Good, I'm so glad to hear that.
I just feel like I fit right in, and, like, everyone... they've always been very accepting of me in your family, and obviously the situation is like no other. The way that we know each other and the way that we've grown up.
It's always so...
it's weird.
It's such a long story to tell people when they're like, oh, how do you know this girl? And if it's not, oh, she's my best friend, it's... You then have to go into all of the history. And
that's something, again, I was very embarrassed about growing up. Like, I never wanted to say how we knew each other.
Yeah.
It's not... I'm getting all teary now. But, like, I fit right in, and, like, everyone's very accepting of me. And, like, the relationship that my family has to yours. No one's ever made me feel like I'm any different, which is nice.
Yeah. Oh, are you okay? Stop. You okay?
Just shedding a few tears.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is, obviously that's hit home hard for you because, our families are very, very interlinked. And I don't know, I think on my part, I have worried. So do you mind if we tell them like what the situation was?
So basically my mum was a maid for Linny's family, and we all lived together in the same house. Like, I was in obviously the like separate part of the house, but Linny and I are the same age, so we've literally grown up like alongside each other our whole lives.
We went to the same school, did all the same after school activities.
We weren't in the same class, but we obviously were in the same year, being the same age.
And Poe's mum has been like a second mum to me, and her family as well. And it's all, I mean, because our houses, we did live together. I would be over at yours all the time, you'd be over at mine all the time, and it was, we were very much a part of each other's everyday lives up until age 12. And I've just not always, but occasionally I've just thought that you would resent me in some way. I don't know, it just... Because I don't know. As you say, like, because you were embarrassed to say that your mum was our maid. I didn't want you to not like me for that.
That's not a reflection on you, though. I feel like that's a reflection on my part of, like... That never influenced my friendship with you.
Okay, good.
Although, having said that, I don't think we ever would have been friends had we met later in life because we're so different.
Yeah, we are such different people.
I wouldn't change our friendship for the world.
No, me neither.
But no, I don't ever hold that against you. I'm very thankful for the situation that
because it is so unusual, and no one I know has the same relationship between two families.
No.
But
only thing that I will say is that I've always felt like I've been in competition with you. Not in competition, but I've always compared myself to you because we were the same age, and
I see.
And I've just always felt like you're always so much better at everything.
Oh no! Oh my gosh.
Linny is very creative, which I envy, but I'm also very proud of her, obviously. But I've just always felt like when you put your mind to something, like you're so good at achieving it, and you just have like all these like little creative...
Stop! This podcast, this episode is supposed to be about you! I mean...
But, I spoke to your mum about that the other day, when I was on holiday with her, and she said to me that's why I put you two in different classes, so that it would separate you two a bit.
Yeah.
Which is good.
If anything, it's sort of, like we were two children of the same family, because children that close in age, I think, do compare themselves.
Yeah,
any
it's natural,
siblings
you
that
know.
close in age compare themselves
Absolutely.
to each other like that.
Or even if you were like a year older or younger than me, I feel like I would still always compare myself to you. Just because we grew up together.
Yeah.
You know, so it's always like, oh, what's she doing? You know, that I'm not, or whatever.
Oh.
But that's not like me being resentful of you. That's just me reflecting on myself compared to you.
Yeah.
And it's just quite funny that we both decided on the same degree subject, but like obviously our paths are going in completely different directions.
Yeah.
But it's just quite funny to see how, you know, having been separated at the age of 12, we've somehow like come back together at 18. But then, you know, like,
yeah. Speaking of which, how do your parents feel about your university degree and your masters and you studying psychology and all that?
So my parents, firstly, are not, well, they weren't very educated. I think neither of them finished school because they both come from very, very big families. So they had to leave school quite early on to work. I think my mum left school when she was like 12 or 13 and started working to support her family. So education has always been very important to them, but they've never been pushy about it. They've always been like, you know, just do your best. Whatever you achieve is amazing. Just work hard. And they're very, very happy that, you know, I've come to England to like do my undergraduate and now I'm doing my masters. And they just keep telling me that I need to focus on myself, you know, and they always say that they're proud of me for, you know, doing this. So, and I think, unlike maybe some stereotypes of typical Indian parents where they're like, oh, you have to settle down when you're like 20 or whatever, I think my parents have just been like, you focus on yourself, you focus on your education and getting a good job before you figure out anything else.
Yeah.
To be independent, you know.
Yeah, that's so good that they're so supportive.
Yeah.
And I think in Indian culture, like a lot of Eastern Asian cultures as well, you tend to get these tiger mothers.
Yeah.
Really pushy mums who force their kids to do school when school is over, like always on them about homework and extra exercises and that kind of thing. And I guess you were not really subject to that.
No, but then also it makes me think, was I not subject to that because my parents weren't educated themselves?
Yeah.
Or it could be the other way, like, oh, maybe they would be because they weren't, but
yeah.
I think they always trust me to do my own work, and they know that I do, and they know that.
I mean, you're very responsible as a person, so I can see that they would have faith in you for doing that.
Yeah, so my mum, you know, she'd always just check up, like, oh, have you done your work? But she wouldn't ever sit there and like watch me do it. I think they know that I will do my work, and they know that I work hard, so they don't ever like, they're not pushy or anything, which is good.
Yeah, that's really good. Letting you find your own path.
Yeah. Obviously they have interjected at points when, for example, I said I wanted to do hotel management or something, but they've never been, they've guided me, but they've never forced anything upon me.
That's good. That's a good
not the typical parents being like, oh, you have to do engineering or like be a doctor or whatever, you know. Like me choosing psychology was, obviously they didn't really know what it was, but they were you know, they were like, you know, if you're happy to study it, then
and I think I'm right in saying that in your family you're the first to study in the UK.
Yeah.
Of all your cousins
first
and
to study
and
abroad, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And how, I don't know, I guess your parents must be pretty proud of that.
Yeah, but then at the same time I also feel like I don't fit in with my own cousins because I'm that one that went to the UK, and I don't want them to perceive me being this like really upper class, or like thinking that I'm so much better than them because I've gone to like a UK university.
But you get on quite well with them, or?
Yeah, I do, the younger ones, but the older ones I always just like, oh, I don't know if they think that of of me, regardless of how nice someone is to you.
What ages are we talking here?
So the younger ones are mostly like 13 and under, and the older ones I'd say are 28 and older.
Yeah, and you're 22, just for everyone.
Oh, yes. And they all went to university in India and stuff.
Yeah.
So me going all the way here was a very big deal.
Yeah. And they grew up in India, Dubai?
All the older ones grew up in India.
Yeah.
None of them studied in Dubai.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were just very much based there. And some of them have moved to Dubai now or are travelling for work to other places, but I think I'm the first one that has actually properly moved to another country for university.
The first in your family. I mean, I guess that's both a blessing and a curse.
Yeah. And then you get those people that think my parents are like super, super wealthy because their daughter goes to like a UK university, and then they think that my parents are really snobby or whatever.
Who are these people?
So where I'm from, my hometown is a very small village, and everyone knows each other. Mm-hmm. So that everyone knows everyone's business and likes to have a gossip. Yeah. So all those people think that that family is like so wealthy, and they think they're so much better than everyone else because their daughter's in England. And
do they talk to your parents still, or like?
Yeah. Everyone's very like polite, but then they'll say stuff behind
reserved.
your back, or
I
to like someone else, or the way that they talk to you sometimes is like they're trying to prove something.
Yeah. How do your parents take that? Because your parents are just the nicest, most lovely people.
I think they ignore it because they know that that they've done well for themselves, and here I am doing my best, so they just shrug it off. I don't think it bothers them.
That's such a good mindset.
I think because of the background that they've come from, they're just thankful to have what they have, and they're not like comparing themselves to other people, which I guess is a quality that I always admire in my parents, which I don't think I really have, to be honest. But they're very like empathetic, and they will always help someone even if that person doesn't help them back. My mum always says that even if that person doesn't help you, someone else will come along later and help you back. So they're very, very generous and very helpful.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, I think you've picked up a few of those traits. Just saying.
I don't know, because I feel like I'm quite short-tempered like my dad, whereas my mum's quite cool and collected, and I don't think I'm as empathetic as them. Or maybe I just don't show it, but then I have a cry about it later.
I think you can be both, if I'm honest. It depends what the situation calls for.
And who that person is to me.
Yeah.
Or what they've done, to be honest.
Yeah. Context specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't expect it to get this deep.
I wasn't quite sure where it was headed, if I'm honest. No. Like, just so everyone knows, I haven't planned this. I've been talking about starting this podcast for so long, to a lot of my friends and family, but I wasn't quite sure where it was headed or what I wanted to talk about. But I think, I don't know, this has just been really eye-opening for me, because we were talking about this earlier as well. In the 22 years that we've known each other, we have never ever talked about this kind of stuff in our friendship. Like, not once. It has never ever come up in conversation. I guess that's just a result of, like, we know each other so well, and it's just sort of, it became the norm, and we didn't really question what the other felt about it or that kind of thing. But yeah, it's been really, really eye-opening to see your side of the story and to know more where you're coming from. And would you say that do you find a stronger identity now that you're older?
I think I'm beginning to, yes, because I want to explore more of that side. It's going to sound cringe, but I was watching Rick Stein and he went to somewhere in India called Pondicherry, and
Yeah.
I don't know, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, I have to go there. Like, I just felt like I'm not even from anywhere near there, but I just felt some strong connection that I wanted to go there and explore, which I've never really had before with India. And I was like, I just want to travel there. And then after that, I started looking at some volunteer stuff for like women, you know, who've been, or like orphanages and stuff, and I just feel like I
in India,
and I want to go there and, you know, see what it's like.
Yeah.
And I know I do yoga, and like some people are like, oh, you're finally like doing stuff that's your culture, but that's not why I'm doing. I do it because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yes, I feel like I'm learning now to appreciate it and enjoy it.
Yeah, to accept that.
To accept that part of me. Whereas before, I just wanted to suppress it for so long. You know, I never related to it. I never wanted to be Indian.
Yeah, which is
it's so weird because that is what I am.
Yeah, it's so funny as well because there's I've met not so many, but quite a few people in England who are English who would die to be from somewhere besides England, and just really love those kinds of cultures and you know, anything that's not their own, which I guess is the same as your situation, really. Just, like, love anything that's not your own. But we worked for this Indian street food company, and the owner is not Indian. She's English, but she loves Indian cuisine, and she has been to India multiple times, and she loves it. And it's just funny to hear someone whose heritage is from India doesn't or didn't want to be Indian when there's it's just this strange world.
Where do you think is home for you? Turning the tables.
I think it changes.
Yeah. But do you think that you found somewhere that you do call home, or do you think...
Again, it depends on the context.
Okay.
For me, I mean, I'm gonna do a separate little thing for myself.
Okay, I won't butt in then.
About this.
Yeah.
Which you can go watch on my channel.
Go subscribe and follow.
But yeah, I think that's a whole other story.
Yeah, that's
in this episode, I just kind of
yeah.
wanted to explore what you felt and that kind of thing. But I think that's honestly, I think that's so good that now you're starting to accept and want to learn more.
Doesn't mean I'm going to start speaking Hindi or anything. No promises.
I mean, no, don't worry. I know. I know.
Baby steps.
Yeah. You've never wanted to
No.
speak in Indian. Or even though, like, funny story. Tell them about when you slap talked.
Apparently, I was sleeping once, and I think I was very young. I think, and my dad tried to like pick me up to take me to like bed or something, and I started talking to him in Konkani, which is my mother tongue, despite insisting that I don't know any.
Yeah.
But it's clearly ingrained in me somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, like growing up in that environment, because your parents talk to each other in Konkani,
so
and talk to your family in Konkani, and they talk to you in English.
Yeah. So I understand it and I know what they're saying, but I don't think I can put together like a whole conversation, like if I had to speak it, but I can understand. And
yeah,
I can,
you understand.
Yeah, I understand what people
speak.
are talking about.
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's great to have as many languages as possible. So like I've been like, but why don't you speak this language?
But then also the language that I speak is only for that small part that I am from.
Yeah,
so it's
that
not
region,
that valuable
dialect.
Unless I was talking to my family, but now mostly everyone knows English. Whereas Hindi would be more important because that's spoken all over India.
Yeah.
Which is something that some people don't really understand sometimes. Whereas some
what,
people
like other other
Well, they're just
non-Indian
like,
people
oh,
don't understand.
Yeah, they're like, oh, you should learn your mother tongue, but what they don't seem to understand is that that's pretty useless. In terms of taking it further, Hindi would be more useful, like for business or whatever. That would be better to learn.
I see. Yeah. And are there similarities between the languages?
No. Maybe in terms of what we call stuff, like we were in the supermarket today, and jeera is like cumin seeds, but the way that they speak is different. I would say.
Yeah. So it would be like learning another language.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I see. Anyway, so is there anything else you'd like to say or want to discuss? Or
no, I was just
it's
been lovely having this chat with you.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, like you said, we've never really spoken about this stuff before, so
I don't think it's that weird, to be honest.
No, it's just never really come up as such.
We've never needed to question it. Like, we've always known who the other was.
Yeah.
So I don't think we ever questioned each other's culture or what we identified as. It just, as you say, it's never come up. We've never needed to.
No,
but I just thought it would be nice. I'm so glad.
Share my thoughts, and it's been interesting to hear your thoughts on my life as well. But I mean, it would just be so interesting to see if anyone else has a similar experience to this.
It would be. Yeah, we were talking about this earlier as well. If anyone listening has any identification with Poe's story, any aspect of it at all, or completely the opposite, you think the opposite, we would just be so interested to hear what you have to say about that, because I think third culture kids and this third culture is very underexplored at the moment. At least
it's relatively new, I'd say, isn't it, that since we've been able to travel, that people can now
and everyone's from everywhere these days, so and everyone's story is different. Like we've said, we've never met anyone with the same story as ours, but I'm sure there's thousands and millions of other people who we haven't met who have different stories from anyone else in the world, and I would just love to know sort of how they feel, and because it is a topic that's pretty close to my heart and both our hearts, which is why we're discussing it. But if anyone has any comments, or even if you're not part of this third culture and you've grown up in the same place and know everyone, and that's been your whole life too, we would love to hear your thoughts on third culture and that kind of thing. So if anyone has any thoughts or questions, just drop them below. And I really hope that you enjoyed this podcast, this episode. Linny Chats, episode 1, Third Culture Kids with Poe. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. And
cheers to that.
Cheers to that. Thanks everyone for listening.
Bye.
Catch you later. Bye.